Hi, my name is Vanessa Ramirez, and I'm here to talk about my Domain F artifact that I submitted. So, the artifact I submitted was a document between it was a few documents of between my instructional coach and I, and how implement Domain F with my teaching. So, one of the things I set, one of the goals I set for myself in my bridging document from last semester was that I wanted to set goals for myself. I wanted to set goals for my students, for my teaching, um, and just ways I can improve and grow as an educator, especially within these first few years of teaching. It's a lot of learning, and I know there's always ways to improve. So this is one of the um, strategies I use to fulfill this domain. So what happens is once a month I get observed by one of the instructional coaches at our district, and right after the observation we sit down and we debrief. And I usually do this during my prep time. So it's about a 45 minute discussion on how the lesson went, what she observed, if my learning target was posted, if my success criteria was posted, my self reflection, and the follow up. So the follow up is this is where she gives me suggestions, recommendations, or when even I come up with a suggestion that I want to implement in my classroom. So this is a way for me to set goals for myself every month. And when we follow up the next month, we pull this out and we go back to see what we talked about and if I've implemented it yet, or if I haven't, why haven't I, and what can I do? So I wanted to make sure I answer the three questions for this artifact. So this artifact relates to Domain F because it's allowing me to reflect on my teaching. It's allowing me to grow. It's allowing me to also set an environment for my students that's learning and that students are now taking responsibility for their learning. And this is what I do. This is a way for me to stay focused on my ultimate goal and what I want my students and what I want for myself as an educator for my students. So this is implemented in the classroom because right after I debrief with her, I go and look for other strategies that I can use based on the follow-up. For example, one of the suggestions she gave me is a closing activity. So we went through it. She gave me what I can do. She gave me all the strategies within this closing activity. So from there, I get it and I use it with my students. And I usually like to test this with my smaller class first just to see how they goes. And then I'll move up to my bigger classes, the ones with 20, 25 students. So definitely meeting with my instructional coach, getting her input, and then taking everything I heard from her and implementing it in the classroom. This has definitely helped me. And if you look through that artifact, you can see that every follow-up has something different because this is something else I want to add on. And what she's told me is that I want to do a million things and we don't want to tackle everything and try and improve on 10, 20 different things. So meeting once a month definitely helps me and stay focused on and how I want to grow. And that's how I implement this in the classroom, because what I take from our debriefing, I go ahead and try and implement it in my classroom. And if I ever need extra support, I just send her an email and she comes in. So this is done on a monthly basis. I receive what these forms, these are for my copy. So anytime I have an issue and I say, oh, I know we talked about this, I go ahead and just pull out the sheets that we get, and then I can look, and then if I have a question, I'll send her an email. I don't know if you remember this, and then she'll come in again and actually help me. So this is how I grow as an educator. Anytime I have questions, I turn to her, and so she's very, very, very helpful, especially my first year in high school. Classroom management was a big worry of mine, but my students and I have gotten into the routine. They've gotten into the way my classroom works, so which is awesome. And I think a big part of that is because of meeting once a month with her. So that's the way I use my my support team at work to implement this. I also look to my support provider from national and my site provider and my colleagues and my students, which I think is very, very important to also get input from students because they're the ones that are in the classroom. They're the ones that are sitting there for 55 minutes listening to me lecture. So I ask them, what do you think we should do? If I do an activity, I ask, do they like it? Come talk to me. So I'm very open with my students. I I'm such an advocate for students feeling comfortable in the classroom because if they're not comfortable, learning is just not going to be the first thing on their head. So that's what I've done, and it's worked for me. And this is how I implement Domain F.